So we have one more session to go in our symposium. And for this session, we have Raegan Stearns, Diana Simpson, and Johnamarie Macias. So whenever you're ready, Raegan.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, are y'all able to see that?
Yes.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. My name is Raegan Stearns, and I am the University Archivist here at Alabama State University in Montgomery. And I appreciate this opportunity to share with you all my recent experience in finding joy and finding inspiration in my archives. So Alabama State University is an HBCU founded in 1867 in Marion, Alabama, by a group of formerly enslaved individuals who we celebrate on campus as the Marion Nine. And we frequently refer to ourselves as the university at the heart of the modern civil rights movement because so many of ASU's alumni, students, faculty participated in or were instrumental to so many seminal civil rights episodes. People such as Fred Gray, Ralph Abernathy, Fred Shuttlesworth, and even Rosa Parks. I've been working in ASU's archives for about 5 years now, arriving maybe 1 or 2 months before the pandemic began in March of 2020. And so, as we have emerged from the pandemic, my colleagues and I in the archives frequently host groups of middle school and high school students from across the country who, because of ASU's close association with the civil rights movement, they come to us to learn about this legacy. And so here you see our reading room in the archives and me presenting to a group of middle school students from California this past semester. And I want to thank my colleague. This photo is courtesy of Jason Trawick, who took this for me. And so during the course of this symposium, I've appreciated hearing from you all in different stages of your career. As someone who can now probably be considered mid-career, I'll admit to sometimes finding myself battling, if not full-fledged burnout, sometimes finding difficulty feeling challenged or feeling busy, but maybe not always fulfilled when it comes to some of the day-to-day work of being an archivist. And so as it relates to the presentations that I make to young students, such as this in this picture, I have to carefully push back from, teaching from memory or almost scripted or by rote, as I try to make sure to relay all of the information that we want our students or our visitors to obtain. And the students who come to us are already so informed about much of the civil rights movement, and they're generally really delightful and curious and interesting guests. And I'm reminded constantly about what an honor it is to do my small part to keep the legacies alive of participants in the movement. And so one person that we always talk about when people come to our archives is Joanne Robinson, who was an English professor at ASU from 1949 to 1960. According to her memoir, on her first day at work on ASU's campus, she met many women who were members of the Women's Political Council, and she joined the organization that very day. The Women's Political Council was an organization of Black professional women who organized and worked to improve civic and cultural opportunities for the Black community and to increase the number of Black voters in Montgomery. And Robinson would soon become the president of the WPC. She led the WPC in their efforts to improve the treatment of Black bus riders in the city. And it's important to know that the WPC, this group of women, had already organized and had planned for a hypothetical bus boycott years before the December 1st, 1955 arrest of Rosa Parks, who refused to relinquish her seat to a white man. And so that same night of Rosa Parks' arrest, which was a Thursday, Robinson and ASU colleague John Cannon and two of Robinson's students came to campus and mimeographed tens of thousands of leaflets instructing Black people to stay off the buses the next Monday. She and students that she recruited handed out the flyers the next day throughout the city, which was a Friday. And after seeing the success of the one-day boycott on that Monday, Robinson and other Black leaders, to include Edie Nixon and a newly arrived, about a year, newly arrived to Montgomery, Dr. Martin Luther King, decided to continue the boycott, which ended up lasting from December 5th, 1955 to December 20th, 1956. And so for a very long time, Joanne Robinson has been one of the lesser known leaders of the Montgomery bus boycott. And often people who are familiar with her have only seen this image, this mugshot of her, which is courtesy of the Montgomery County Archives. But when I talk about Joanne Robinson and other movement heroes, during my presentations, I try to emphasize that these were ordinary people who courageously strove to make things better for their community during dangerous times. And so I often show this image of her found in our collection for students to examine. I ask them to kind of guess what's going on in the picture. And I'll pause for a second if you want to wager a guess too, before showing them another image. And this is Joanne Robinson with John Jones from the John Jones collection here in our archives. So I show them this image and then the following image, which shows Joanne Robinson and her ASU colleagues in a faculty theater production. And these images come from our John Jones collection. The writing on the back simply says, English Faculty Dramatic Production, circa 1940s. And this is Joanne Robinson and John Jones. But I love seeing and using these two pictures, which I think depict just a hint of Robinson's personality and her interest, and then are a reminder that these civil rights movement heroes had talents and interests and, lives beyond what we know them for. And so I enjoy those photos as a bit of evidence of what I suspect was one of Joanne Robinson's joy and creativity. And I use it for myself as a reminder that no matter how difficult life may be, to make the effort to seek joy. And I'm not in any way equating my situation or my life with the Jim Crow society that Joanne Robinson navigated. But I was inspired by her during the spring 2025 semester to find my own joy. And so, needing to push back from that dreaded burnout that I referred to earlier, in January, I was able to take advantage of an ASU benefit, which allows employees to take one class for free each semester. And so I obtained the permission to attend Ceramics 1, which was being taught by Professor Christopher Greenman. Taking a ceramics class had always been something that I wanted to do and was on my bucket list, but not something that I'd ever pursued. And I'm grateful that I made the effort to take the class when I did, because it turned out to be Professor Greenman's last semester teaching before his retirement. And the class turned into a much needed distraction from all the news and the politics, which otherwise would have been, overwhelming to me. And so on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 10 a.m. to noon in January to May of 2025, I enjoyed what became my 6-hour sabbatical. And so I enjoyed everything about it, from ordering my pottery supplies, 80% of which I never used because my skill set never graduated to the level of needing them. I look forward to changing into my class outfit of sweats and a t-shirt every, midday before crossing campus to Tullabody Hall, which is home of the art department. Kind of chuckle to myself every time I enter the combination on my lock to get my apron out of my assigned locker. And so I cherish the communal spirit in the studio also, where I became familiar with terms I'd never needed before, like wedging and grog and bisque firing. And so here you see me in my apron, because this class turned me into somebody who now loves taking selfies and photos of my supplies and my assigned wheel in the ceramic studio.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah, that's great. That's nice.
Wow.
And so that was just a little clip of Professor Greenman removing my head sculpture from the Raku kiln. And on the right are some images of that same sculpture. You can see kind of the struggle beginning when I was trying to keep up with my classmates to after it was fired. And then also on this slide are other examples of my works in progress. And I was most proud of my pinch pot, where I attempted to depict some of my great grandmother's life using my version of hieroglyphics. So, lessons learned from my 6-hour sabbatical. I gained so much from experiencing this class, even beyond, just learning about ceramics. I gained all the benefits I think that one gains from a typical sabbatical, such as rejuvenation and renewed energy and focus. I learned to appreciate my archives colleagues even more, who I had to ask to cover my responsibilities while I was away from the department. And I was able to really appreciate that I'm surrounded by generous and talented and knowledgeable and just competent people, and that our archives department is in so many capable hands. I learned to assert myself in a way that centers and prioritizes my health. I needed this class, and I was able to recognize this for myself and to articulate it to my superiors. The first time I declined a meeting because I had class, even though it was quote unquote just ceramics, I kind of felt an internal sense of achievement and realizing that the world does not end if I miss a meeting. I learned how unnecessary comparison is. At first, I was discouraged at how talented my classmates were and how slowly I was catching on as compared to them. But eventually, I came to realize that enjoying the process of learning and creativity is often more important than the end result. And so here you see a picture of my wares at the end of the semester after packing up all of my pieces in my little box, everything that survived the kiln, and finding this particular joyous practice has led to another, because now that I have all these vases and bowls around my apartment, I've taken a flower arrangement so I can use them. And so thank you. That's it. I've appreciated this opportunity to speak about finding joy in the archives. And here is my contact information.
Thank you,
Thank
Raegan.
you.
That's so cool. All right, Diana, whenever you are ready.
All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
And how about my slides? Whoops, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Don't see those now.
How about that?
Now, yes.
Oh, this is
Now, yes. Okay, good. Let me see if I can bring back the chat. I always lose the Zoom screen. Okay. All right. Well, good morning, still morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Diana Simpson. I'm the catalog librarian at the University of Southern Mississippi. And thank you to the Southeastern Archives Association and the Society of Georgia Archivists for this event and the invitation to present. I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to share today about some cookbooks I cataloged that brought me some joy as I learned about the author who spent his life spreading joy and healthy living encouragement to everyone he met. This journey began with our curator of rare books in Mississippiana, Jennifer Brannock. For a long time, she has collected cookbooks for USM's special collections, many of which are regional cookbooks from Mississippi. I cataloged these cookbooks, and many of them turn out to be quite interesting and joyful to catalog. This year, Jennifer began adding more vegetarian cookbooks to her collection to support a project with the class of students she was working with. So I began cataloging cookbooks such as Diet for a Small Planet, the Whole Earth Cookbook, and one that I've owned a copy of for years, the Moosewood Cookbook. This is what led me to catalog a couple of autobiographical cookbooks and learn about the author, a hippie guy from California named Gypsy Boots. Now, since Mr. Boots' first name that he adopted has some offensive and negative connotations, I'll just refer to him as Mr. Boots or Boots from now on. And in fact, Boots was one of his early adopted monikers after his given name, Robert Bootson. These small paperback cookbooks turned out to be a bit of a challenge to catalog because I discovered that Mr. Boots quite prolifically republished his books with remixed or added new content, often without publication or printing dates. So before I get more into the cookbooks, I wanted to take a few moments to give you some background on Mr. Boots, which I think explains why he was such an enterprising, self-published author. Boots was well known around Southern California, mostly in the LA area, where some say he was the first hippie, way ahead of his time. And many agree that he was the first health food, organic food, and fitness guru. He was born in California and learned from his parents at an early age about exercise and healthy ways and natural ways of living and eating. In the 1940s, he quit school and became what he called a nature boy with a group of friends living in the California canyon wilderness and eating off the land. He lived this vagabond life for several years and had various odd jobs, such as picking fruit and selling it at markets. In the 1950s, he settled down to a more conventional life, married, and had 3 children. His nature boy years, however, had solidified his mission in life, and this is where he began appearing on television and becoming a pioneer in healthy living and organic food. A self-described health nut, Boots was a fixture at LA farmers markets, most often found peddling the organic fruit he learned to pick as a nature boy, and perennially he was in attendance at health food fairs, parades, hippie events, music festivals, health food restaurants, anywhere that would have him. Wherever he went, Boots was always promoting his philosophy of health, fitness, and natural organic living. He was very entrepreneurial and is said to be one of the first to make fruit smoothies and energy bars. In the late 50s, early 60s, he opened a popular health food restaurant, one of the first health food restaurants, and it was called the Health Hut, that attracted everyone from locals to famous celebrities. A natural showman, Boots was also an entertainer and a television personality. He loved the spotlight and being over the top zany. He was a regular guest on the Steve Allen Show in the 1960s, where he was called the Ageless Wonder and would demonstrate fitness stunts and engage in silly antics. The more outlandish, the better, and demonstrate organic food related tasks such as making smoothies or milking goats. Boots was famous for corny rhyming phrases that he would either shout or write on a sign. Like a shaman, he would exuberantly bang drums, dance, and chant slogans about healthy living. Boots was everywhere and everyone knew him, even in the LA sports arena where he religiously attended sports events in his signature crazy outfits, cheering for the team with a cowbell. The keys to his joyful philosophy were consuming a vegetarian diet, fitness and exercise, and generally living in a way that promoted longevity. This is how he exuded joy for life, and he wanted everyone he came in contact with to have the same joy. So Boots, being the entrepreneurial guy he was, he self-published these autobiographical cookbooks where he relates his life experiences and philosophy on organic foods, along with some recipes. His best known was probably Bare Feet and Good Things to Eat, first published in 1965. This was in collaboration with Jerry Hopkins, a staff writer and booker for the Steve Allen Show. Steve Allen, in fact, wrote the introduction for the book, and you can see that the cover is from the show. As I cataloged a copy of Bare Feet, I realized that what appeared to be the matching bibliographic record to import into our catalog did not match the book I had in my hand. Both the record and the book matched on the publication and copyright dates, but the pagination was different and there were different leaves of plates or pages of plates of photographs. And a further statement on the front cover said new pictures and recipes. So that also indicated that I had something different on my hands. What really helped was that I found a digitized version of the original Bare Feet at the Internet Archive. And when I looked at that version, I could compare it to the copy I had and confirm without a doubt that I had a very different book from the original. I could compare the title pages, table of contents, covers, pagination, and I saw that I had an additional 2 chapters in my book, including a chapter on odorless garlic that was not in the original. And it had some additional photographs and recipes as well. Additionally, my book had a statement that said, this is my 7th printing. Normally, that would not raise any red flags. A 7th printing would be common, and a later printing can be used with the same bibliographic record as the original. They can both, the record can represent both copies. But in this case, I concluded that the book I had was more than another printing. It was a new edition. It just didn't identify itself in those words. So I created a separate bibliographic record with notes to help users understand that this was different than the original book. But I wasn't quite done with Bare Feet. A couple of weeks later, another copy arrived, and as I was cataloging that one, I realized it was yet another version of the book. This one clearly stated that it was a new edition, published in 71. The cover looked the same as the original, and it had the same page numbers or amount of pages, but in comparing the photographs in the book to the Internet Archive copy of the original, the photographs were completely different. They had been swapped out for new photos. So given that it stated it was a new edition, had different photos, different copyright date, I created another bibliographic record for this one. So this brought my count to 3 known different editions of Bare Feet and Good Things to Eat. There are a few other Boots books out there, but I don't think they were as popular as Bare Feet or the last book I cataloged, The Gypsy and Me. I did not find a digitized version of this book, so I couldn't compare it to another copy to see if there were different versions out there. But knowing Boots's entrepreneurial nature and his penchant for self-promotion, I wouldn't doubt that there are probably several versions of each of these books. If you come across one, snap it up, and it's sure to bring you joy or at least a smile. I'll close with a couple other Boots tidbits. For a fun listen, here's an LP he recorded that you can listen to on the Internet Archive. And this is a clip from Boots's first TV appearance on Groucho Marx's game show from the 50s, You Bet Your Life. This is where he demonstrates his early penchant for entertaining an audience. The link at the bottom goes directly to the clip. So later on, if you get these slides, you can check it out. I'm not sure I can link out to it here. This is another clip from a interview in the 1990s where he embodies his outlook on life. To paraphrase him, he says, "Your life is not about how much money you have, but about how much love you have," spoken as a true hippie would. Oops. So thanks, everyone. I think my time's up. And I have some references here that you can look at later and clips to the videos. Thanks for listening. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Diana. Johnamarie, whenever you're ready.
All righty, let me go ahead and share. Oh, someone else is sharing. Diana's presentation is still up.
Sorry, I don't know how to stop the share. Oh, here we go.
Go. All righty. Let's go with. All right. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Johnamarie Macias de la Torre, and I am the college archivist at Central Piedmont Community College here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And my presentation is called Finding Joy in Archival Research Requests. So let's go ahead and get started. So just a brief slide here about Central Piedmont. It's one of the 58 community colleges in North Carolina. It was established in 1963 when the all-white Central Industrial Education Center was merged with the all-black Mecklenburg College. And then the archives itself wasn't formally organized until about 2011, and that was when the first college archivist was hired. And the archives was originally located in an uninviting place, but thankfully a new space was created and opened in 2022. So now we have a reading room for research, and a processing room to process collections, a storage room that has functional compact shelving, and several display cases to feature artifacts from our collections. And one thing I want to stress is that we have an extensive backlog. So that means many collections housed within the archive are unprocessed or not digitized in any way. So these are things that I'm working on, but since I'm the only full-time employee here in the archive, I'm doing my best without spreading myself too thin. So what is my presentation about? So I personally find joy in helping people getting the information they need. And I think those kinds of experiences can be really rewarding. So I'm just going to highlight a few research requests we've received at the Central Piedmont Archives, how I went about tackling those questions, and then sharing the positive feedback that also brought me joy. The first research request I want to highlight came from the daughter of a former employee who's featured here on the right, Dr. Mel Gay. He held a variety of leadership roles throughout the college, but he sadly passed away in 2012. About a year ago, his daughter contacted us and asked to listen to one of his interviews that was on cassette tape. So to make it more convenient for her, I migrated the cassette tape using a digital converter and Audacity. Then I shared the file with her on Microsoft SharePoint. And she was beyond thrilled to get access to this. And she wrote in the email, "I can't thank you enough for sending this to me. I really wanted to hear his voice." And so I think that's really special. And I'm glad that, I made it possible for her to hear her dad's voice again. So this next research request came from a community patron who is an avid supporter of the Charlotte Fire Department, and he was interested in seeing 2 interviews featuring former fire chiefs who were Central Piedmont alumni. And he was unable to come in person, and he also had an iPad to work with and not like a computer. So I went ahead and I digitized the DVDs by using Adobe Premiere Pro and then uploaded the MP4 files to our digital collections on Content DM. So he initially wasn't able to view the videos, but after playing around with the settings in Adobe Premiere Pro, I uploaded different versions of the videos, and then that's when he was able to view them. And then he sent an email with a hearty thank you where he said, "Thank you so much for your help in tracking down these videos and making them available for me to view. Your hard work and determination means a lot." And I thought it was really nice of him to say. And whenever I'm feeling down, this is one of those messages I look back on to cheer myself up. And this next request came from the daughter of a Richard Hagemeyer Educational Advancement Award recipient. That's a really long title. Dr. Richard Hagemeyer being the founding president of Central Piedmont. And this award recognized Central Piedmont graduates who significantly benefited from their experiences at Central Piedmont and whose efforts ended up helping the community. So this one recipient, Cynthia Young Hutchins, who's featured here on the right, she earned her degree from Central Piedmont in 1978, becoming one of the first 3 women to graduate from the electronics program. And so her daughter reached out via email and asked if we had any photos or articles about her. She also was going to be in the area for a conference, so I wanted to make sure that I found something for her to walk away with, to physically walk away with. So I spent a few hours digging through our publications and negatives, and thankfully I found a handful of items for her to take away with her. So in the end, she was happy with the results, and she thanked me for accommodating her request in a short amount of time. And this was another instance in which I was more than happy to help a relative find more information about their family. This 4th request came from a former student who called and asked whether we had a local article about him in the archive. Unfortunately, we didn't, but instead of saying, "No, we don't have it, sorry," I ended up searching through the news bank to see if I could find it there. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it there, and it turned up basically it was I wasn't able to locate it there, but I used my personal library card to use the Charlotte Mecklenburg Public Library's Charlotte Observer database, and that's how I ended up finding it. So I sent it to him via email, and then I also called him to make sure that he received it, and he ended up thanking me and saying that now he finally had proof to show his friends that he had been featured in the in the newspaper, because I guess they just didn't believe him. So I'm happy I went, the extra mile to help him connect with something from his past. And this is him right here. So this last research request was pretty simple, pretty straightforward. A former student called the archives and asked if we had a copy of a literary magazine from 1984 because he had published a short story in it. And thankfully, the previous college archivist had worked with the North Carolina Digital Heritage Center to digitize our literary magazines. So I sent him a copy of the short story he had published, as well as a link to where the publication lives online. And his reaction, I'll never forget it. He thanked for my speedy response, and because I tend to ramble and trip over my words from time to time, he thanked me for my sparkling personality, and that just made my day. So yeah, like I said in the beginning, I enjoy connecting people with the information they need, especially because our archive is still trying to organize and digitize materials, so not everything is accessible online. And for a lot of people, they don't have experience with archives and don't know how to go about looking for archival information. So if this is their first experience, I want it to be a positive one. And thankfully, most of these interactions have been incredibly joyful because I get to learn more about the college's history, but they also help remind me why I love doing what I do. So thank you, everyone. I know this was the last session of the day, but I hope you liked it. And if you're interested, you can follow the Central Piedmont Archives on Instagram with the handles at CPCC Archives. And wow, I finished right on time.
So you did, and I still would have given you a little bit more time. Because that was my fault because I don't understand how math works. I do, I'm just really bad at it. So I will share a quick slide. So, thank you all for coming. Do we have any questions or comments for our last slate of presenters?
This is just a comment, but I want to thank everyone, but especially these last three. They were all so much fun. I feel the joy radiating out of all of you, and I especially loved, Raegan, how you're inspired by the people in the archives. I think that's really beautiful.
I would say I think you did beautiful pottery, Raegan.
Thank you.
You
Can't
had
drink out of
lovely
anything, but thank you.
and also like this is sort of general to all of y'all, use your benefit, right? Take that class if you can. I used my employee benefit at Mississippi State to take flower arranging. It was fantastic. Flower arranging in Latin 1, among other things. And you know, if they'll let you noodle around, do it. I decided to take classes because I went to a tiny liberal arts college for undergrad. I decided I would take classes that I could not have taken at that institution, just for the experience, and it was glorious. So definitely recommend that to everybody.
Thank you. I'm sharing my screen really quickly. Thank you all for coming. If you have time and feel inclined to, please fill out our survey. I call it assessment too many times, then someone pops out here and tells me I don't possibly understand what assessment is. But please share us some
Please.
feedback, and if I can figure out how to put the link in the chat, I will.
Please do give us some feedback, and let us know. We're going to email this link out as well, since I know we've lost some people. There it is. Yeah, we'll send it out in an email as well. But please do give us some feedback. Even if there were things that you did not like, we need to know that too, so that we can make it better for next year. And I too would like to thank you all for coming, and to thank all of our presenters as well. We appreciate all of y'all being willing to do this.